another small group and then come get a number from Bailey at the end of the meeting. But these are the small groups right here. If everyone could just, because these people over here won't be able to see the screen, if everyone could just, as a group, move over this way to your right and then back a little bit, just like a few scooches over, that'd be great.
This is how they clean the floor.
My name is Molly, and this is Alec and Stoey, and the three of us are the head coordinators of the program. And we have a really exciting meeting planned for you today. But first, to get started, we're just going to do some quick icebreakers with your small group. So, the first one is... You're good, Billy. The first one is, what was your best Halloween costume as a child? So, share with a member of your small group. Best Halloween costume as a child.
I wasn't into Halloween. I was into Halloween.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is fundraising. So that's terms and conditions and the letter campaign. So hopefully all of you submitted your terms and conditions. We know a lot of people didn't, that's okay. But we just ask that you really get those in by this. Dom in the back did not submit his terms and conditions, everyone can look at him. But we just ask that you submit your terms and conditions by the end of this week. So just to reiterate, that is the $70 program fee, and just sign this form through the University Mission Ministry. And as always, if you have any issue with the financial obligation with the $70 and that's a burden for you or for your family, then please just reach out to us and you can have a conversation with our campus minister or grad assistant and we'll figure out something that works for you. But we're gonna start kind of using that list as, you know, who we're sending emails to and who we're giving updates to the program to, about the program to. So you really wanna make sure that by the end of this week, you have your terms and conditions submitted. And next we have our letter campaign. So the letter campaign makes up 1/2 of our fundraising requirement for the program. So essentially what you have to do is send 10 letters to friends, families, old schools, coaches, teachers, organizations that you've been a part of in the past, places you worked, really anything. But the whole idea behind the letter campaign is that you are asking for a donation, but you're also kind of just telling people what you're doing over spring break. So one of the biggest missions of Appa, taking it back, is sharing the stories of people that you encounter, people that you meet. And so this is a way of either sharing some of those past experiences if you've been on an Appa trip before and explaining why you're going back and doing this again. But it's also a way to kind of give people a little bit of a heads up and invite them into this experience so then you can share it with them after the fact. So what we need you to do is to bring to the next meeting 10 letters printed out. And you do not have to draft this letter yourself. We have an entire form letter. We just ask that you personalize the first paragraph. So you kind of say a little bit of why you're doing Appa in these letters. And you print out 10 of them. and then bring them with the addresses of who you're sending it to. So you don't need to bring envelopes and you don't need to bring stamps. We'll have those with you. But together at the next meeting, at the third meeting, we're going to address the envelopes. So come with 10 letters, 10 addresses of the people you're sending them to, and make sure that they're a little bit personalized. And this will all be in our program email, but we just wanted to explain a little bit of the letter campaign and why we ask.
Cool, so some transpo announcements. So just giving y'all a little site update. We're really excited to say that we have booked all 36 sites, and those sites include 2 new trips this year that we're going to Houston with Habitat for Humanity to help with disaster relief. So we're super excited to announce that, and working with these communities that really need help, and for us to come down there and serve with them is something really we're excited for. And then secondly, as always, we need drivers. So if any of your friends are going to be 21 and over come spring break, please encourage them to sign up for Appa. Yeah, that's all the transpo updates.
Okay, so now that we got a little bit of logistical stuff aside, we want to go into the meat of this meeting. We're lucky today to be joined by Eddie and Jeannie. Ed Sloan is a native and current resident of Wheeling, West Virginia. He is currently finishing up a doctoral degree in theology and education from Boston College, in which he is writing about doing religious education after Laudato Si and exploring how to overcome Appalachian stereotypes and promote ecological justice through place-based education. His favorite quote from a West Virginia activist comes from Judy Bonds, an anti-mountaintop removal activist, who said, quote, "Never be ashamed of who you are and where you're from." When he isn't studying, Eddie loves to be outdoors, play music with friends. We're also joined tonight by Jeannie, and Jeannie Kirkhope runs the Appalachian Catholic Worker Farm in Spencer, West Virginia, where she lives with a partner, Bill, 3 dogs, 2 cats, and her flock of chickens. She is the co-coordinator of the Catholic Committee of Appalachia, a grassroots faith-based education network advocating and speaking out for social, economic, and environmental justice in the region. We're really, really excited to have them here tonight. Give me a round of applause for them.
I'm going to sit down and face you. I have to have control over my PowerPoint here. Thank you for showing up to be an audience. Everybody see over there? Because the slides are pretty important to my talk. Eddie can do it from memory. I have to have pointers. Look at that picture of you.
Facebook, hey.
Is that in an alley somewhere? It's kind of creepy.
It's a later alligator restaurant.
Yeah, that's technical difficulty. There was one other person when I was figuring this out. There was one other person in here that I saw has bibs on. Where are you? Can you stand up, please? I saw you right in the beginning. There's a girl in here with bibs. She's wearing overalls like me. Stand up. Thank you very much for wearing the bibs. It's going to be a bit of a harsh reality check for y'all. So I know you're all excited about coming to Appalachia, and we're pretty much going to like throw you down tonight. So I apologize ahead of time. Ooh, where'd it go? Oh, it's still there. Okay, so now I got to see where I'm talking about. Okay. Let's see. So you are listening to 2 people who have been, well, Eddie's from there, and I have been living in Appalachia for 20 years. And we have some advice from other hosting sites, and from our own work that we've done there, to spring breakers who come. So first I want to say, if you haven't been on a trip before, those of you who have, you know how this goes. It can have major repercussions for the rest of your life, because that's how I started. I went down to West Virginia my junior year and went on a spring break, and now I run spring breaks or alternative breaks or mission trips or whatever you want to call them, service immersions. I run an Appalachian Catholic worker down there, so I've hosted well over 2,000 students in the last 20 years or so, and my slides aren't really showing up the way they should. That's all right. So it's kind of been this pairing of the groups coming down and helping out Appalachia, like the Justice League, you know? Overcoming poverty, like Nelson Mandela says, overcoming poverty is not just a gesture of charity, it's an act of justice. So what we feel we've been getting lately, since like the beginning of spring breaks with groups, is that we're carrying the weight of the justice part, and we're getting a lot of the charity from the spring break groups. So the charity comes in the form of like money, donations, and the service projects that you do. And that's great, and it's wonderful, and we need that. You're basically putting Band-Aids on gushing wounds in Appalachia, which is a major ordeal. But we also need you to help us work for justice in the area. And that comes in the form of learning more, raising awareness about the issues that you're learning about, changing your own lifestyle so that you're not becoming a part of the problem, speaking out or protesting about whatever issue it is that you're focusing on, working to change the policies and structures, and not just get a job, but get a job that doesn't cause more of a problem. So you're all being focused on your careers while you're here, and hopefully spring breaks will even tweak it even more so that you focus it into an area that is more helpful than harmful to people and to the earth in general. But this is kind of what's been happening. So the spring breakers swoop in, we kind of go over Appalachia 101, here it is, here's our region. You guys slap some Band-Aids on, and you take some cool selfies with us, which is always fun, post them on Facebook, and then you disappear. And then the next year is the same thing. New students, new place, swoop in, we do Appalachia 101, slap the Band-Aids on, get the cool selfies, and take off. There's no depth, there's no progress, no relationship formed there, no follow-through, and no justice in the end. And this has been going on since spring break started at the beginning of the war on poverty back in the 60s and 70s. So as long as I've been alive, people have been coming into Appalachia trying to help out. And it's kind of been more of a burden on Appalachia in the end. So it's time, Eddie and I are here to tell you it's time to go deeper. And if you haven't been on one before, you get to start brand new right now. This is how you get to start. You're making a new commitment to Appalachia, starting all fresh. He's going to talk a little bit more about Catholic Committee of Appalachia. This is one way that you can stay connected to Appalachia. There are groups all over the region, individuals working in little hills and hollers, working on their projects, and they come together on issues like mountaintop removal. So their voice gets strengthened when we come together. If we had the 500 students from BC joining us in that voice, we could really make a difference. But poof, you're gone at the end of your week. So if we can stay connected to you, that would be great. We're going to talk about the agendas, the hidden agendas behind the agendas that you all talk about. When you're going on a trip, it's great that you want to build community, but it ends up being among your own group. And there's not a whole lot of building community with the people there. Serving others is also a very noble part of the agenda, but it almost feels like you're just going out there to try to save others, like Superman. Immersing yourself, that's great. You talk about immersion trips, but it turns out being just having a good time. Immersing yourself in a good time. I'm seeing these really down, drawn faces. It gets better, don't worry. Learn about the issues unless they're really relevant to you. They don't really, you're coming here to have fun. So if you're talking about coal mining, not a lot of coal going on in Boston. I'll learn about it while I'm here, and I'll drop it when I get home. And then act for justice, or act like we do something for justice. It looks like you're doing something for justice, but you're really just kind of immersing yourself and having a good time. So, hidden agenda number 1, we're going to go into a little more deeply, but these are slides that you have to help me out with. Whenever you say, I want you guys to have these stick in your brain. So, when you see hidden agenda number whatever, I want you to say it all together, so it's a participatory slide. Are you ready? Hidden agenda number 1. Let me hear that again. Come on, ready? 1, 2, 3. Hidden agenda number 1. Thank you. The first one is build community. And you're already doing that, starting that off right, by not going in a big blob of 500 students all in one area. You're breaking it down into groups of smaller, intimate groups. Like 10 is about max, I would say, in any place. You want your community to already be built before you even get there. Before you get to Appalachia, you want your group to be tight. Because once you get there, you don't want to be this big blob of grapes walking around town. You're going to stick out like a sore thumb. Everybody knows each other in these small towns, and they know that you don't belong. So, you know when you're in the grocery store, you bring your grapes home, you wash them in the sink, and a couple of them fall off the vine, and they're rolling around in the sink, and they got some little droplets of water, and they're so happy. You know, that's what I want you all to be. I want you to break free from the bunch and be a liberated grape. So, and you're really going to be stepping out of your comfort zone here. And I understand that. So grab one person, but don't walk around like a big blob just everywhere that you go. You're not there to build community with each other. That should already be built. You're there to build relationships with the people there. And keep those relationships. It breaks their hearts when you all come, and they love the groups. A lot of the people, especially the little old ladies, they love the energy that you all bring, and then you're gone, and you don't keep in touch. And it's heartbreaking to watch. For me, it's heartbreaking to watch. Very few, of 20 years that I've been doing this, I can count on 2 hands the number of times that students have come back to visit. And I can count on less than 1 hand, 3 or 4 fingers, of the people that have kept in touch with the people that they met. The guy on the right, Brad Mills, went to Santa Clara, and he's now a Jesuit in formation, and he still writes to this little old lady, and he sent her a sweatshirt that says Santa Clara Grandma. And she's still got this picture on her television set. That's major. But he's the only one. Okay. Serve others. It kind of feels like you're trying to save others. So there's a stereotype of it's either hillbillies or rednecks, but they have a stereotype of us, you and me included. We're the do-gooders. We're the ones that parachute in to try to save them and go home feeling better about ourselves because we've done our good deed for the week or for the year or whatever. So, oh, that's too bad, it's not showing up. What happens is, anybody that's ever come they say they want to help, but what they end up doing is taking our mountains, our timber, our gas, our oil, our coal, our jobs, and our profits, because a lot of those industries are from out of state, or outside the region, and it ends up taking our dignity in the end. So don't let these trips be another extractive industry. You're just taking more from us. Appalachia doesn't need anything else more taken from it. It's already been shit upon quite a bit. So we can't have you be another extractive industry. So if you feel called to serve, think about what it really means to be a servant. A servant, if you want to understand, you literally need to stand under the people that you're serving. You need to blend in. Eddie and I are staying at the Crown Plaza, or whatever it's called, fancy schmancy, this hotel. But there are, the maids there totally blend in. We don't really, they kind of go in, clean stuff up, leave, and we don't even know really that it happens. They're doing the dirty work. Just like the people here on campus, your work crews on campus, the people in your kitchen and cafeteria and in your dorms cleaning up your crap, and your barf from the weekend and all that good stuff, they're slipping in and slipping out. That's what you need to be when you go to Appalachia. It's not, ooh, BC was here, 2018. Slip in and out and don't let anybody know you've been here. Because of your education and your opportunities, you'll never really be a servant to those people anyway. The best you can hope to be is a companion, which is a pretty good deal. You actually want to be more of a companion. When you break down the word companion, which this slide has already done for me, apparently, it means the action of bread with another. So all these Jesuit schools talk about men and women for others, or for others, as it says here on the screen. But it also means that you're men and women with others. You're with them, you're not just for them. That means you do the work until it's done. You don't start pooping out and talking to your neighbor, your friends from the group. You don't, lag behind. You've come to work, so do it. And those people really appreciate it, but they don't appreciate, and I don't appreciate it when you poop out, because who ends up doing the work when you're gone? We do. We end up cleaning up what you don't finish. So hang in there. And if the only message you get, the only lesson you learn is, these poor people, I'm so grateful for what I have. I'm glad I don't have to work this hard. I'm glad I don't have to live this way, whatever it is. You have totally missed the point. You've missed the point of solidarity completely if you just go away with a feel-good attitude about what you just did for the week. That's not what it's about. So, which brings us to immersing yourself. It's not just about having a good time. We want you to have a good time. That's a very funny slide, and it's not showing up nicely enough. That's all right. We want you to have a nice time, and we're just as excited about you guys coming as you are. But immersing yourself doesn't mean you're just going to the town and now you're in this town and you're immersed in Spencer or in whatever town you're in. And it doesn't mean you're going to start, immersing yourself doesn't mean you're just going to wear the clothes or talk with a twang or play the banjo now or whatever it is. And it doesn't mean that you're going to pick up, the hobbies and skills that Appalachians have. And it also doesn't mean that you're just going to come away being happy with all the work that you've accomplished. Ooh, thank you so much. We got to do it again next year when you're not here. So it's great, and I don't mean to downplay it, but you're a flash in the pan. What really needs to happen, we need you all to listen. And my music isn't coming up. I had this great cue of music. It's going to be all reflective and cool, and the pictures are awesome. And all these pictures are taken from students. Students who have been there, who got the whole listening thing. So I'm going to go through this real quickly without the cool. So listen to their stories. This is a picture of a big buck in the woods. The animals in the land tell a story too. If you're not paying attention, you're going to miss those stories too. The elderly tell stories. There are thousands of books being written. Listen to the wisdom from everybody, from the bugs to the kids, to the housewives, to nature. We have students go back to a waterfall when they come to visit me and they hang out there. Listen to their history. There's so much history in Appalachia. It's thick and it's deep. And a lot of it's sad, but a lot of it is beautiful. And if you're only concentrating on how distressed Appalachia is, you're missing out on the wonder of it too. So I'm just going to keep going through these because this isn't working for me. Then I want you to go deeper. So listen to their stories and everything, but then I want you to go deeper. And this is a great picture of a bee in his hole that would have shown up cool. But ask what it's like to be you in this place. Ask those people, what's it like to live here? What's it like for you to be here? And to grow up this way. And to live near the people that you live near. And ask it of nature too. If you're really listening, you're going to get some answers that you'll see start resonating with you. What are your greatest challenges? You're going to hear a lot of the same stuff that you have to deal with. What signs of hope do you see? And they'll tell you. I'll be happy to tell you. And you'll see them yourself if you're paying attention. How can we together bring about change? Because we can't do it alone. We need you all to help us. That's a sad picture. That's flooding that happened last year. Share the joys with the people, what really makes them happy. try to understand why it makes them happy and be happy along with them. But I also feel the struggles, the pictures of mountaintop removal, really devastating. What it's like to raise a family in poverty. What it's like to put up with a rough winter when there's not enough food. And then just keep asking more questions, whatever comes up. Whatever you want to know more about, get deeper with them. And listening, I can't express it enough how important listening is. So you'll start to realize the connection that you have with everything and everyone. And if you get that connection, you're going to understand this quote. If you've come to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. So we don't need the Messiah complex. You making yourselves feel good for saving us. We need you to feel our pain because you have the same pain. You go through the same kind of bullshit we do. When you get that, then you're in solidarity with us. And then we can get some work done. So you're going to know if your group is really immersed over the week's time or however long you're there, just within the conversations you have. Within the first day or two, if you're talking about home and school, that's okay, because you're just starting to get into things. But if you're still talking about school the rest of the week, or your friends back home, or your family, you are missing immersion. You are not immersing. You should be talking all Appalachia all the time by the end. And maybe the last day you might mention a little bit about the homework that you need to get done before you get back. But the rest of it should be about Appalachia. If you're feeling that interconnected, interdependent stuff that we've been talking about, you're going to want to live more gently in the world. And you're going to want other people to live more gently in the world. Because in a society where we live, where it's bigger, better, faster, more, living gently and simply is totally countercultural. It's totally countercultural to live like people do in Appalachia. But that's what happens when you have a culture of encounter. A culture of encounter is totally countercultural, just like the Gospels. The Gospels are totally countercultural too. Buddy Christ, my fave. Hidden agenda number 4. Learn about the issues unless they're irrelevant to you. Again, if you're getting this whole web of life thing, we're all connected, what they feel, you feel, what you feel, they feel, whatever we do causes a ripple effect that either strengthens those connections or breaks them. If you get that, then you're going to also understand that all the issues in Appalachia are relevant to you. They're all relevant. Oh man, I hope this slide works because it's so much fun to do. Anyway, Appalachia is the ground zero for all the problems. It's like the microcosm of the rest of the world. Well, of the rest of the world's problem is every encounter, every issue that you can encounter at home or in Boston or wherever, they're feeling it in Appalachia too, but they're feeling it like times 10. So it's concentrated. Oh, it is going to work. Okay, so this is a participatory slide. If you can see these, we're going to yell these out as they pop up on the screen. These are the types of issues that we deal with, that I know that you all deal with in your areas. Are you ready? Here we go. Read that one.
Poverty, clean elections, pollution, military recruitment, homophobia, clean water, unemployment, welfare, minimum wage, strikes, layoffs, health, substandard housing, Islamophobia, education, domestic violence, obesity, racism, diabetes, infrastructure, ecological destruction, animal abuse, private prisons, prescription drug addiction.
And that's a short list. That's a short list of all the stuff that's going on. And you know, these are not new issues to you, right? They're all the same things going on all over. We just get it hit very hard. And you know how these words pop up? They pop up over here, and then there's one over here, and you don't quite know where to expect them. That's kind of how it happens where we are too. So if you're talking about coal mining, it might not seem like it's relevant to you at all. But when you realize that 53% of the United States electricity comes from coal from West Virginia or Eastern Kentucky, then yeah, it's relevant. If you're talking about contaminated water and you don't really see, well, the Elk River in West Virginia is not that big a deal to me because I'm all the way over here. Well, when you look at where all the water is, all over the United States and how all those rivers are combined, are connected, then you know it's relevant to you. So even though Appalachia may not end up being the thing that interests you the most, everyone's interests are represented in Appalachia. That's why it's relevant, regardless of what issue you're talking about. So your end of the week is done and you've just acted like you did something for justice. It was so much fun and you made this big change in the world and you've made a difference and now you're going home to do nothing about it. That's a major problem for us. That's like you going on a poverty tour. We were just talking about this earlier. If you don't follow through with this trip, it's just exploitation of Appalachia, and it's more extraction. You're taking more from us than anything you can give. You need to stay connected with Appalachia and its issues, but you also need to stay connected to each other. It's real easy to get back into the routine of being at school, and your tight group kind of falls apart because you're not in this great experience together anymore. But that's going to be like your upper room. You got these heavy issues to deal with, and you're going to need to go back to those people. You're going to be changing your lifestyle, and it's not always going to fit with what your roommate does. So you're going to need to have support. And the groups that you're making over the next few weeks and months, that's going to be your support. The people in this room are all your support. You're also going to have a pretty big bone to pick with your administration once you get back. Because now that after your trip, you're going to be like, I really want to live better, differently, more gently. One of our CCA members emailed me, you're going to BC, you got to tell him, I am your most ardent supporter. His name is Art Milhond. He's a retired anesthesiologist. He's 73 years old. He's Boston College class of 65. He's been involved with Appalachia and Physicians for Social Responsibility, which works for the prevention of nuclear war, which got a Nobel Peace Prize in 1985. So this guy is like the result of this kind of experience that you're about to have, if you follow through with it. If you leave it and chalk it up as a good time, you've totally missed the point. So rather than be the do-gooder, be the underdog with the rest of the world. Don't try to be saving the world, be an underdog with the rest of the world. And then we can start our little relationship all over again between BC and Appalachia. And it'll be a nice, loving, real, committed marriage. We've been going on this for 50 years, so let's start making it deep. Thank you.
Sorry for y'all right in front here. I'm going to be like talking right at you. Or one of them. Okay, so thanks for having me. There's two things that I want to. Oh, hold on. I'm going to set another timer before we get started here. Just give me a second. All right, so there's two things that I kind of want to use my time to share with you all. One, I want to talk a little bit about my own story, how and why I chose to stay connected to the Appalachian region. And then the second thing I want to talk about is a little bit about these Appalachian issues, like Appalachia One-on-One that Jeannie mentioned. And I kind of want to turn that on its head, though, when I talk about it. So I'll start just by talking a little bit about my own story. As you already heard, I'm a native of West Virginia, from the northern part of the state in Wheeling, which is one of the larger cities in West Virginia, population of about 30,000. So a few years ago, I was helping out to facilitate a youth-led leadership conference. It was in West Virginia. It was held on the campus of Marshall University. And one of the students that was participating, a high school student, she asked me this question. She said, why do you stay connected to the Appalachian region, and why did you choose to move back after you lived in Boston for 4 years? And it was like one of the hardest questions anybody has asked me, because to me, in my head, it seemed so self-evident. I just said, well, why wouldn't I want to be in West Virginia? To me, it's the best place. You know, I couldn't imagine wanting to be anywhere else. But the more and more I thought about that question, you know, weeks, months later, like the truth of it is that a lot of my friends that I grew up with, like, couldn't wait to get the hell out of West Virginia. And when they're asked where they're from, they kind of hedge on that, and they'll say, oh, New York City or Boston or wherever they're currently living. They'll say that's where they're from. And I'll say, no, you're not. You're from West Virginia. And as I thought about, like, why do people say that? Why do people not want to answer that question? Why do people my age want to leave? And I think a lot of it has to do with the preconceived ideas that people have about Appalachia, about West Virginia. You know, we aren't alone in that. People have negative stereotypes, negative ideas about a lot of people and a lot of places. But you know, why did I personally choose to make the choice to stay, to make it a part of my vocation, a part of how I talk about myself, a part of how I identify? I've lived in a lot of different places. You know, I lived in Oxford, England for a while. I lived in Lexington, Kentucky, Cincinnati, the Twin Cities, Boston. I'm finishing a PhD. You know, I mention all this because it's like breaking two stereotypes, right? That Appalachian people are hostile to the outside world, whatever the hell that means, and that are illiterate, that are hillbillies, you know, never gone to school, or don't want to learn. You know, and I make no secret of my love for West Virginia. It's, you know, I've actually earned the nickname West Virginia in a few of the places that I've lived, because I talk about it a lot. Appalachian issues have become a focus of my academic work, of my life's vocation. So I come back to that question, why? Like, how did I get there? Let's see what I want to say. You know, I guess another thing I want to mention is that, you know, in all these places that I've lived, I think what's striking to me is that how uniform people's perceptions of the region are. And I think the funniest thing about that has been that, you know, my life in Wheeling, as I experience it personally, has really not been that different from a lot of my colleagues at all these private schools that I went to, you know, like kind of embarrassingly similar, like upper middle class, grew up in the suburbs, private schools, studied abroad. And so it's like, should I be the spokesperson for Appalachia? Like, would any of you be disappointed if I mentioned that there's no coal miners in my family? Or that, you know, even though some of my grandparents like did wear clothes that their parents made them, that was pretty typical at that time across America in rural communities. And my grandparents hated that. They wanted to wear city clothes. You know, I think a lot about our relationship and aspects of our identity is related to the stories that we tell. And the stories that are made available to us. And so the story that was made available to me came out of the Catholic Committee of Appalachia. And so I've got these two, I'm going to hold them up briefly. You know, one is this book, 2 documents, This Land is Home to Me, and At Home in the Web of Life. The other one, if I can get it here, is The Telling Takes Us Home, Taking Our Place in the Stories That Shape Us. This one just recently came out, so it's mainly those first two. In the 1970s, a group of Catholics were involved with an organization called the Commission on Religion in Appalachia. And you know, they decided that it would be a good idea if the Catholic bishops of the region of Appalachia issued a joint statement on the region. This has kind of been the spirit of the Second Vatican Council, which if you've had theology classes, maybe you've learned this was the church saying, we want to open ourselves to the world. We want to read the sign of the times in light of the gospel. See what the gospel and what Catholic tradition has to say about Appalachia. What was unique about these documents was that the words in them came from the people of the region. You know, it wasn't a bunch of isolated bishops or theologians coming up with something that they thought the region needed to hear. They weren't trying to fix the region, but listen to the voices of people from the region. And so when I was in high school, a campus minister who I knew at Wheeling Jesuit University gave me a copy of these. And it changed everything I thought I knew about myself and the place that I was from. It was the first time I read a story, a narrative about the region that I could attach to myself that wasn't shaming, that wasn't blaming. It explained the role of the extractive industry in creating poverty and dependency that most people think about when they think about Appalachia. You know, there's some of those things that Jeannie talked about. You know, instead it said that, you know, it wasn't Appalachia that needed to be fixed. Appalachia wasn't the problem, but the outside was the problem, right? Those industries, those like relationships of exploitation, extraction that Jeannie was mentioning. That was a new thing, especially in the 1970s. You know, the war on poverty was trying to make Appalachia more like America. And the pastoral said, well, no, the opposite is the case. They suggested that Appalachia had power and knowledge to contribute to the work of justice, that our local experience had something to say. Of course, people in the region kind of already knew that. There's a long history of labor organizing, of resistance to injustice in Appalachia. But for people who didn't know that, who had forgotten it, or who stopped believing it, the pastorals sang that out. It was a reminder. And so I want to talk about these Appalachian issues a little bit, kind of moving on to the second thing. So my challenge to you, and this is, I feel like I'm on the right track because I'm going to repeat some things that Jeannie said here. So my challenge to you before you come to Appalachia, before you come to the region, is twofold. The first one I'll talk about is forget everything you think you know about Appalachia. Be willing to encounter that, again, that ministry of encounter the region on its own terms. I've done talks like this before, or I've facilitated an encounter with students, I've led these types of trips. And a lot of times people say, tell me about Appalachia. And so the truth is, there's many Appalachias. And at least in terms of the issues people face, kind of like Jeannie said, Appalachia is not too different from your own place in the world. That question, what is it to be you in this place? Whatever that place is for you, think about the issues that people there most identify with, especially people who are vulnerable to exploitation. What are the things that keep them up at night? What are the things that concern them? What are your hopes or your joys? All of that, a just economy, affordable housing, all those things that Jeannie mentioned. I'm not even going to rename them, but they're everywhere. They're in Appalachia in different configurations with different levels of intensity. Like Jeannie said, Appalachia is a microcosm of the world. And I think too often, service trips like the ones that you're going to be going on end up reinforcing stereotypes about the region. I'm not blaming BC. Like I said, I've done a lot of these trips, I've led a lot of these trips, and I think at times I've been complicit in even perpetuating stereotypes about the place that I'm from by doing that. So I don't want to tell you about Appalachia, because I think it's interesting how we boil down the complexities of the identities that we give ourselves, as if they can be easily captured by a list of bullet points or a list of images. And what does it mean to be black, woman, gay, trans, even human? What do any of those mean? What does it mean to be an immigrant? What does it mean to be young? What does it mean to be old? I think it depends on who you ask. So is a white racist coal miner any more Appalachian than self-identified Afro-Lachans? Is a poor, uneducated person that lives in a holler, notice how it all sounds negative, right? Are they any more Appalachian than the suburban PhD student? Is Kim Davis, the Kentucky county clerk who refused to issue marriage licenses to gay couples, more Appalachian than native-born queer and trans youth doing organizing and sustainable farming in the region? How about native-born co-executives or environmental activists like Jeannie who moved to the region and have lived and worked there for decades? The media calls Appalachia Trump country, but I spoke with many West Virginians from all walks of life who were Bernie or bust. So who is Appalachian in these dichotomies? And whose version of Appalachia do you want to grab onto? Is it quantity that defines the authenticity of an experience? Does the fact that maybe there's more racists in Appalachia make their experience normative? Do they get to speak more often for the region? Does their experience count for more? I think a lot of our answer depends on our worldview and our politics. Because the truth is that culture and the way we choose to represent it is always political. And so forget everything you think you know about Appalachia. Encounter the region on its own terms. Listen to the voices of people that you encounter. And even be pissed off if you hear something you don't like. That's okay. So I think the second thing is that whatever issue you care about the most, whatever it is that keeps you up at night, that gets you out of bed, learn about who is working on that issue in Appalachia and how that issue manifests itself in our region. This would be a great project for you to do with your group. Go on Google, look it up, and bring it back to your group and talk about what you're finding out. If you care about I'll help you out a little bit. If you care about economic justice, check out Coalfield Development Corporation in Southern West Virginia. If you're concerned with grassroots politics, learn about Kentuckians for the Commonwealth. If you're passionate about anti-racism, check out the Highlander Center in Tennessee. If LGBTQIA is your thing, get in touch with the STAY organization, which stands for Stay Together Appalachian Youth. They're doing rural organizing around those issues. If it's environmental justice that motivates you, check out the Ohio Valley Environmental Coalition. If you're interested in high tech and media arts, learn about Apple Shop. I'm just scratching the surface, figuring out who's working on these issues in your part of Appalachia. And bring what you learned from them back to BC. The whole Beyond Appa part of this is that people in Appalachia, like Jeannie said, have stuff to teach you because they've been involved in the struggle for justice for decades. And they're working to make change in their region without you. And you have things you can learn from the work that they're doing. You know, when we go on service trips, the question we have to ask ourselves is like, do we seek out and choose to encounter people that merely confirm our own superiority, the superiority of our class, our race, our level of educational attainment, so on, so on. And I think it's a problem with service learning sometimes. You know, we can fix this. I think that's why Jeannie and I wanted to come here and talk with you, because we can fix how we choose to engage the region. Are we really interested in a mutually supportive struggle for justice? I think, and I've done this, you know, it's like, it's easy to encounter poor people who smile and thank us for fixing their roof. And that's an important thing. People shouldn't have to live with leaky roofs. But, you know, are each of us willing to be called out by those we encounter? Are we willing to talk with activists that really don't have time for us, that really don't need us? Myself as well, you know, I'm a BC student too, you know, even though I'm a native of West Virginia. You know, they're busy, they're making change. Are we willing to be called out by them? You know, are we willing to meet them on equal footing? To recognize we both have things that we can share with one another. Even more to the point, like Jeannie said, you know, are we willing to take the opposite position, you know, to allow them the superior position? The black activist W.E.B. Du Bois has a beautiful quote. He asks a rhetorical question, how does it feel to be a problem? And I think the answer to that rhetorical question is that it hurts. So I hate it when people say that Appalachia is like another country, or it is like the third world. And like, not only does that confirm the idea that poverty and oppression are things that happen elsewhere, not here in America, but I think it creates this distance between Appalachia and the rest of America. And it also reinforces the standards of white American middle class as normative. It makes Appalachia the problem to be fixed. I want to suggest something else, kind of similar to Jeannie. I don't think the problem here is underdevelopment of some parts of the world. We hear about developing countries, right, as if they're trying to catch up to us. I think the problem is overdevelopment, is what we need to be thinking about. There's a phrase that, like, sometimes you hear about activists, I don't know if people still use it, but it's like, if you aren't pissed off, you're not paying attention. So when I read articles that say Appalachia is the most depressed or the most unhappy place in America, like, my response to these is always, well, no shit. If you aren't frustrated, if you aren't pissed off, if you're not grieving, if you're not sad, to some extent you probably haven't read a newspaper in a while. I don't think Appalachian people need to be made happy middle-class consumers. I think all of us, I include myself in this, because of some of the privileges that I have, I think all of us need to be a little more angry, a little more upset by the many forms of subtle and not so subtle violence in our world. I think the problem is those emotions, that anger, that grieving that we feel for certain places, for certain people, we pathologize those emotions. We say there's something wrong with them, or we say, if you're poor, you're doing something wrong. You know, and Appalachia isn't all victims. It doesn't get a free pass. You know, I get pissed off when I experience racism, or homophobia, or a lack of concern for the environment or other animals in my home state. I get pissed off at those, and I think those emotions alert me that something's wrong. And it motivates me to want to change. And this is where CCA comes into the picture for me, and why it's been such an important part of my life, in my ministry, and for the region. Jeannie already read some of the mission statement of CCA, which is a faith-based grassroots network raising a prophetic voice for Appalachia and her people. So what we do is we seek in the Catholic Committee of Appalachia a gospel vision and a prophetic vision. I want to kind of unpack those two words, gospel and prophetic. The Gospel of Luke has Jesus begin his public ministry by reading from the prophet Isaiah. And I'm going to quote it here. He says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. Later in the Gospel of Luke, Jesus slips in, woe to you who are rich. Institutions, are often imperfect things. They stray from their foundational principles. And so the prophets are the ones who call institutions back to those principles. Because of that, they're often treated as exiles and their voice is silenced. Like the prophets are portrayed as calling out in the wilderness, but also full of hope. And Jesus calls us to remember. The prophets call us to remember. And it's something that the church needs today. Remember, there's always a difference between God and between the institution that is the church. And Jesus is calling us, just like we should call our institutions, to be a better version of themselves. Calling out and being willing to be called out ourselves as well. So it goes both ways. Because we're a grassroots organization, CCA operates through state chapters that are empowered to be their own voice and their own part of Appalachia, and to figure out their own connection to the region and the type of work they want to do. So as I mentioned before, I spent 4 years on BC's campus, so it has a special place in my heart. So one of my dreams for CCA, this is a scheme that Jeannie and I have been dreaming up, is to see student chapters evolve out of programs that are on campuses, kind of as extensions of those programs, that stay connected to those programs. And my dream is for Boston College to be the first of those. So Jeannie and I talked, and CCA is basically adopting you as a student chapter right now. And Kelly Hughes and I were talking about this, and kind of an extension of that Appa and Beyond piece. This is the Beyond piece. This is the part of the program where you ask, okay, what does it mean to be in a mutual relationship with the Appalachian region? And so, maybe Jeannie and I have said some things that are kind of hard, that are upsetting, or maybe are inaccurate. Like good, like I hope I'm wrong, like I hope we're proven wrong, that's the point. But we want to know how you're bringing Appa back to BC, how you're staying connected to the region. So if you are outraged by mountaintop removal and get involved with CJBC, or you have an experience of racism in the region that pisses you off, you get involved with Black Lives Matter, and then the administration comes down on you, let us know about it. We'll write an article, and maybe it'll get published by NCR, National Catholic Reporter, maybe it'll go to your bishop, or maybe it'll go to many bishops. That's what solidarity looks like. It's not the privileged helping the poor. It's all of us working together and supporting each other. CCA believes in the programs on BC's campus. We wouldn't be here otherwise. But we want it to be a mutual relationship. One in which we all have power, we all have knowledge and resources to share with each other. And that right there, that idea that we all have power, knowledge, resources to share, including each of you in this room, including everybody in Appalachia that you'll encounter, that's the biggest thing that I want you to take away from this talk this evening, and with you to Appalachia and beyond. So that's it for me.
Once again, thank you guys so much. Those really powerful words. We unfortunately don't have time for a Q&A because we want to give everyone a quick opportunity to meet with their small group. Before we go off to do that, just really quick, we want to pub Agoros. Wednesday is trivia night. That's actually wrong. Wednesday is actually under 21. Come with your team, you can do trivia. Thursday we're doing karaoke, which is 21 plus, so if you want to come and sing with us and make a fool out of yourself, it could be a good time. I think we get like 15% of the profits from Agoros, so it'd be really great if you can go out with your friends, tell everybody to come, it'd be a great time. If the TLs could quickly stand up and hold up your sign really quickly in case someone couldn't find their group. And if you don't have a group, you can come up to the front and Bailey will give you a group really quickly. Other than that, we want to thank you all so much for coming. Hopefully you can have some great conversations with your small groups. That's all, folks. Go ahead. Go do great things. And thank you again to Eddie.
Too much fun, I got it.
No, it's okay.
Next time I'll do it.
Yeah, I just got it. That's so fun.
Oh, yeah.
You're so fun.
What? I know, you're wild.
Sorry, thank you. I did not think of that. Always thinking.
It's a little bit better. Amanda, what's that?
You guys come here.
Okay.
I think I've seen One Direction 6 times.
Oh, that's a great one.
And I just love it.
What was in there? No.
It's a really cool program. Over spring break.
Okay. Alright. Yeah, alright.
The athletes are able to volunteer for a week. We just had a meeting and now we're going to small groups.
Interesting.
Yeah. You should go. Okay, ready? Strut. Wow.
Yeah, she's like.
I'll text you after if you're trying to meet. Oh.
I know. I'm the same way. Have you seen
Okay, this is super random, but like, there was like OL. Keep on.
Hey, good work.
You too, you guys too.
That's right.